Hey everyone, Jane here, and I wanted to do a recent reads video.
Pictures and patterns put into words that stream across the page, capturing life as soft spoken.
So instead of a monthly wrap up, just because that has been a little bit too hard for me to do, I've been doing a recent reads, and I'm going to talk about the most recent books I've read and the books that I've basically read since my last recent reads. These are going to be very kind of quick. If you want more detailed reviews, I'm going to be doing spoilery reviews for some of these books that I had a lot to say on. Some of these books, I just didn't have a lot to say, so they're just kind of what they are. The first book is Carry On. It is by Rainbow Rowell, and it is about this guy who goes to mage school, and it is kind of Harry Potter-esque. He has been going to the school for a while when we start the book, and he's had a crazy last year, and there is this thing called the humdrum that is like the big bad in the book, sort of, and he and his friend fought it last year, and it wasn't a great situation. So we learned kind of all of this really early on, and this is his last year. He was told he really shouldn't come back to school. It's too dangerous, but he wants to be there. And fun magic school stuff ensues. I ended up giving this a 4 out of 5. I liked it enough that I want to continue, but I also had some very mixed feelings about it. I thought the world building really left a lot to be desired. I felt like we were being told all this really cool stuff had happened, but we weren't shown any of it. It was like there should have been previous books, but there weren't previous books, and there maybe needed to be. I don't know. I don't know how it should have been done, but I just felt really upset that we didn't see a lot of things. I just felt like we were almost thrown in the middle of the series and just expected to keep up. But I did have fun with the characters. I did think it was a cool world, what I understood of it. There was a lot of things I did like. There is, for me, this was really sold to me as like a male romance a little bit, not like actually a romance, but a little. And I will say, like, that took forever to happen for them to be romantically involved, and I was really surprised by that. I thought we were going to jump in and that was going to be a thing real quick. It wasn't. So I would have liked a little more of that. So it was just kind of not what I was expecting, and it was YA, and it felt YA, but I liked it enough to give it a 4-star. So yeah, moving on. The next book was The House Across the Lake by Riley Sager. This book is about Casey. I had to look up her name because she did not stick in my mind very well. Casey, and is told in first person. So Casey's husband has recently died, and she has become an alcoholic as she grieves for him, and kind of shut herself away at this lake house. Now, she is a minor celebrity, and so this is not really unusual behavior for a celebrity, and people are trying to like get her back out into the world, but she just wants to drink and stay at this house where they were at together. One day, her neighbor almost drowns, and she decides that they need to become friends, but also she starts feeling like there may be some stuff going on with this neighbor, that maybe some situations at home that aren't okay. And so she kind of starts to investigate her neighbor, and crazy stuff ensues. There's not much I can say without spoilers, and I think that this is one that I do plan on doing a spoiler review for, because there's a lot of interesting spoilers here. I will say I did give it a 4 out of 5. I struggled with a lot of it though because I didn't like any of the characters at all. Not Casey, not anybody. So I really didn't have anybody to root for. I thought the beginning of this book was incredibly slow, but once we got to the meat of things, maybe around the halfway point, it sped up and then I was interested and I was really like, okay, this is cool. So it wasn't a huge win. I did give it a 4 out of 5 because I thought it was maybe a little better than an average book, especially with the twists and the turns and the cool stuff. But I also, like, it would be a low 4, like, not necessarily something I thought was amazing, but I thought it was well written. And so I did give it a 4 out of 5. The next book, which was also a 4 out of 5, it's a theme right now, is Hollowpox. I love this series. This is the third book in the series, and it is about a girl named Morrigan Crow, and it's really hard to explain when you're this far into a series what it is without spoilers. But Morrigan Crow was a girl who was in one world and she was taken to another world to save her life because she was a cursed child. And in book 1, she is put through trials to see if she can stay in the new world. This is book 3. I won't give too much details about what happens in the first 2 books, but this is the continuation. I didn't like this as much as the other Morrigan Crow books. So of the 3 that exist now, this was my least favorite. It wasn't a bad book. It just wasn't for me. So the thing I loved about the second book, which is my absolute favorite, is there's a lot of character development and character stuff. This book for me is a little plot heavy with a lot of characters trying to figure out this thing that's happening. And also, and this is kind of an issue I have with the whole series, it just doesn't have as much world building as I think it really should. And I'm not a world building girl. If you've ever talked to me about books, you know excessive world building is not my thing, but I needed just a little more. I think in this book even I would have appreciated some maps because geography in this is a little bit important, and I just struggled with the geography quite a bit and trying to figure out like what was where and who was who and stuff that was happening in this that just I was struggling a little bit with. So overall, I had a good time. I liked this. I'm excited to read the next book in the series. I think the next book is the last, and I don't want it to be because I feel like there's so much more we could explore with this series. Like, this series could be Harry Potter length, and I wish it was going to be because I really enjoy it. I just wish it was more fleshed out, more books, more stuff. This one, like I said, not bad, not my favorite. The next one, I'm just going to talk about one book or one story. It's a short story in an anthology. The story I read was the first one called The Gold Standard, and The Gold Standard was a 3 out of 5 for me. It is a short story about a heist. There are these people, they have been hired to do a heist, but they are concerned that the people that hired them are going to turn on them and fun things ensue. This series, this short story anthology I got because one of my friends is in it. That was not his story, which is why I gave it a rating when I do his story. I won't give it a rating because I don't rate my friends. However, I did want to look at it as an individual short story because one of the things that I think can be a problem with short story collections is you lose all the what's good, what's not in just the overall, this is the collection. So first story was not a win for me. Excited to see the rest of it though. The next book I read was Legends and Lattes, and it is about this adventurer who decides to give up the adventuring life and to start a coffee shop. And it was a 5 out of 5 for me. I freaking loved it. It is probably the best thing I've read this year. It is just so cozy and so character driven, and it's weird because it's not one of those books that I expect to like. It is like I can't tell you why I loved it. because it's not, there's very little plot, but it was just so fun, and there's just so much friendship, and it stuck with me. I loved Legends and Lattes. Loved it. Loved it. The next book is The Death of Mrs. Westaway. And this one was a 3 out of 5 also. This book was a little bit hard for me to get into, and this is one that I do think I'm going to do a spoilery review because I have a lot of thoughts and things to say. But the quick version is there is a girl who is, I think her name is Hal, and Harriet's her full name, but she goes by Hal. And she receives a letter that a distant relative has passed away and that she needs to come and claim her inheritance. To her knowledge, this is not her relative, but she really needs the money. She has people after her and she's in serious debt. And so she decides she's going to go anyway and claim this money and like use her abilities as a tarot reader to convince these people that she's their family. This book, I didn't like anybody in it, including Hal. I thought it was so slow. It started as a buddy read, but my friend actually DNF'd it because it was so slow they couldn't finish it. And I just felt like it dragged and dragged. And then, like, once you get to the last quarter of the book is when everything happens. And the one twist I guessed, and then the other twist, I didn't really believe it. It didn't quite work for me. So it was kind of a miss. It was my first Ruth Ware, and I'm a little nervous because, like, I know other people absolutely love Ruth Ware. A lot of people talk about her. And I'm like, if this is what her books are like, I'm not sure I'm going to like them. But I do want to give her another try at some point. But this one was definitely a miss for me. The next book was the Midnight for Charlie Bone. And this is a middle grade, and it was recommended to me by one of my really good friends. And it is about a boy who goes to magic school. Yeah, it's kind of a Harry Potter theme, this wrap up, isn't it? Magic school is a big theme. So Charlie realizes that he can has an ability. Let's just leave it at has an ability, and is sent to a school for kids, some of which have abilities. And he is trying to unravel a mystery while at the school, and things are happening. I ended up giving this a 3 out of 5. It's a middle grade, and so I don't necessarily expect a ton of stuff from middle grade, but I just am not yet sold on the characters. I'm not yet like sold on the world. I didn't really have the world come together for me the way I wanted it to. It was again a little bit light on world building for me. Now it is a book in a series, and I'm sure there's more that'll come from that. There's some really good dialogue, there's some really funny moments, there's some characters who I enjoyed, but I wasn't hooked. I have to read the next book. I will read the next book because it is one of my friend's favorite series, and I definitely want to give it a good try and see if as I move on, it really grabs me and I fall in love with it, and I might. But so far, it was kind of meh. It was average. It was fine. It didn't do anything super wrong. Little bit less world building than I wanted, but it's fine. The next book was Murder on Bedford Street. This is book 20 something in the Gaslight Mystery series by Victoria Thompson. And yes, I've read every book in the series. I gave this a 4 out of 5. So like other books in a long series, I'm going to try to not be spoilery, but it's hard to describe what happened in book 20 something and not be spoilery for like book 1. So basically, Frank is asked to look into a situation where a girl has been put in the asylum and her uncle believes that she was wrongly put there. So this series deals a lot with things that are historical in the time. I think this takes place in the late 1800s, early 1900s. So things that were issues, often human rights issues at the time, things that are happening to people and things that are true in the culture and atrocities. And like obviously women being sent to asylums wrongly was a thing. So the uncle claims that the woman was sent to the asylum because her husband has taken up with a mistress and he wants her out of the way. I love this. I may have already said 4 out of 5. This series is overall great. I highly, highly recommend it if you like historical mysteries. Some of the recent books have been misses for me, but the last book I believe was a win, and then this one was a win as well. I thought it did some interesting things that I hadn't seen yet in the series, and I think that's what I really was excited about, because this series, I don't want to say it's gotten stale because that's not quite what I mean, but we're on book 20 something, and a lot of the stuff that I was excited about that got me reading the book has been wrapped up. We're 20 books in and 20 plus, and I still like the characters. I will say that in recent books, some of the side characters have gotten a lot more page time, and that did happen in this book as well, but the way it was done worked for me, whereas in the past it doesn't always, because I don't like the side characters quite as well as the main characters. But like I said, this was good. This series is good. If you want to read the series, and I think you should, if you like historical mysteries, start at book 1. You don't have to read the whole thing in order, but there's so much character development and character changes. And if you jump in midway through, you're gonna miss so much. That's actually how I started on this series, is I grabbed book like 15 because it was a new release from the library, and I thought, oh, a mystery, this is cool. I got about 2 chapters in and I was like, I love this. Well, clearly I'm missing a whole lot of story arc, so highly recommend. Just delicious. This whole series and this book I really enjoyed. It gives me, again, what I look for in this series. The next book is Fer-de-Lance, and it is the first in the Nero Wolfe series. This book, for me, I guess I should back up. So, Nero Wolfe is a detective who cannot leave his house. He is a very large man with a lot of mobility issues and a lot of anxiety. I don't know if it exactly explained like what his issues are, but he cannot leave the house. So he has one of his servants run and do all the detective work for him. And they end up investigating a man who has gone missing. The sister reports that the guy had met somebody from the newspaper, a job on the newspaper, and that he found in the newspaper like the advertisements, and he's gone missing. So she wants to find out what has happened to her brother. I ended up giving this a 3 out of 5. It was fine. I was interested in it, but not necessarily in love with the characters. It did feel like an Agatha Christie, so definitely the vibe that I enjoy, but it didn't necessarily do anything amazing, special, grab me. It was fine. I'm going to read more. I might even read the whole series. It was fine. It was fun. But it wasn't just like anything that hit me super special. So for me, a 3-star is, it's fine. It's a book. It didn't do anything particularly wrong. It was an enjoyable read. It just didn't blow me away. So I really enjoyed it, and I will be continuing it. The first book I read was on Libby as an audio, and I will say that it's kind of a weird recording because it has like the, please turn this cassette over. You can tell it's like a really old recording. But then on the other hand, I couldn't find, at least my library doesn't have the second book, either as an individual book. I think they have the ebook, and they have an omnibus that has the second book. But I have a feeling this series is like one of those old series that's going to be hard to get my hands on. So just know that if you're going into it, that it might be a little tricky to get. The first one I did get from Libby as an audio, but the second one they didn't have on Libby as an audio. They had it as an ebook, and then at my library as a physical omnibus, but not like an individual book, which is what I wanted. So I ended up ordering a copy. I bought some books recently. Too many books recently, but that's a video for another day. All right, and my most recent read, that was kind of in order of what I read. My most recent read was a manga. And let me tell you, like, I've been working on this for a while. Mangas are kind of hit and miss for me. For a manga, I'm going to give this a 4 because I actually enjoyed it and I understood most of it. And with mangas, I don't usually get that far. And that is Walking Cat. A cat's eye view of the zombie apocalypse. Basically, we are following this cat around for little vignette stories during a zombie apocalypse. That's it. Like a lot of manga that is in black and white, and this one is, I struggle a lot with figuring out with the people who is who. Like, I just need more cues. Like, I need colored pictures so I know who's who. So I had quite a few times in here where I was like, who is this person? I did like some of the questions that were asked, some of the things about humanity that are talked about. I didn't necessarily like that our cat is not with one human through the entire thing, but a variety of people, and that kind of, I didn't love that. I think I could have really enjoyed this as a novel, maybe. I also will say that the cat is just a cat. He's not really a character. I mean, he is, but he's not. And like, you don't get the cat's thoughts or opinions or anything. He's a cat, and he's just the vehicle for connecting the vignette stories. So again, manga is not my favorite. For a manga, this is a 4. If we're comparing it to like my liking of a regular book, probably closer to a 3. But since it's a manga and it's something that I know I struggle with, when I enjoy a manga, I try to rate it a little higher. So a solid 4 for a manga. All right, guys, it's been a while. That was a long wrap up, or recent reads. I know I need to do better and do these more often so we don't have a ton of books. I know it might happen. Anyway, have you read these books? If so, did you agree with my assessment of them? Did you like the ones I liked? Did you not like the ones I didn't like? This has been Jane. I'll see you next time.